Hey folks, so it is around day 115, 120, in and around there. And as you can probably hear from up above, the rain is coming down. I think that's a couple videos in a row, and you might be able to guess it, but it is turning to fall here on my end. And so what that means is that this is going to be the last video that we do in our updates on our zucchini baby. Now, this baby, it got into the ground a little bit later than the ones in my garden, just because we decided to do this program a little bit later on. And so if we don't answer any of the questions that you might have or things that you're wondering about over the course of the remainder of the season, please do ask those at any time. Just reach out, be more than happy to lend a hand any way, shape, or form that we can. But the good news is that there's not too many changes that are going to be happening regardless of where we are in the growing season from here on out. And so what I want to cover off on today is a quick little update on this baby, see how it's doing, and then just chat through a few of the things that are going to be happening between now and the end of the season that you would want to take into consideration on your end. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a little look at how our baby's doing. So as we can see here, it's continuing to look really quite healthy. Most importantly to me, the powdery mildew, I'm not seeing any signs of it at the moment. And that's a sign that the spray that we've been utilizing, which is again that 1 liter of water and then about 1 teaspoon of neem oil and 2 to 3 drops of soap, has been effectively working with killing off that powdery mildew. And the reason why I like that spray so much is because all the leaves here, they're not completely ruined. They're still looking fairly green, a little bit tired, but still providing energy to the plant and photosynthesis for the plant. So what do we do from here to the end of the season? Well, from a production perspective, we can see that there are flowers on the plant, and I can see that there are more fruit that are coming in right now. And so as long as the temperature is warm, this plant is going to continue to produce zucchinis in the exact same fashion that it has been so far, which is great. So you just allow the plant to continue to produce. And we don't need to be doing any staking or trellising, anything along those lines. It's going to just continue to kind of crawl along on the ground there. So from a production perspective, allow it just to continue to grow. From a pruning perspective, continue to remove about 25% of the leaves, and especially those ones that are either looking a little bit old and tired, yellow and brown, or those ones that are affected with powdery mildew and it's covering the majority of that leaf. Now, one additional thing that you could be doing at this point or at some point over the course of the coming weeks is that when you get to about 60 days from the point of transplanting your baby, you can give it another feeding of superfood and worm castings. All that you need to do in an instance like that is grab your superfood and worm castings and then take 1 handful of worm castings and about 2 tablespoons of the superfood and just sprinkle that on the top of the soil and then massage that into about the kind of top 1 inch of the soil, and that will give that plant baby all the nutrients that it needs to continue to grow big and strong into the season until the conditions get less favorable, which is of course where I find myself here today. So as the temperature begins to drop, you're going to notice that the plant is just going to produce and it's going to grow at a slower rate. Just like at the very beginning of the season when we are waiting for it to get warm enough outside so that it doesn't die off, that first stretch it's going to grow a little bit slow and then put on all of its growth in the peak of summer before then once again slowing off. And so that's what I'm noticing on this baby that I have, because we're getting into those cooler days in the fall. And then at some point over the course of the fall here, it's essentially just going to get to the point where it no longer can grow because it is too cold, too wet for it to be thriving. At that point, you just pop it out into the compost and then allow that to compost over the course of the fall, and then it would re-enter the garden as soil and fresh compost for next year. So that's everything that's going to be happening for the remainder of the season. Again, give it a feed and continue to harvest it and continue to do a little bit of kind of plant maintenance on it to keep that powdery mildew down, and just enjoy the remainder of the season here. You've done it. You've made it to this point. You've probably had some absolutely beautiful zucchinis coming off of your plant. I know that mine out there in the garden, they're still producing. There's about 3 or 4 that I can continue to harvest, and I've got a whole bunch in the freezer that I shredded and ultimately put in there. So it's been a really, really fun season here, and it's been a ton of fun growing with you. Once again, any questions that you do have, please do send those through, and I can't wait to catch you on the next video, the next lesson, the next time throughout the community. See you then.